An heirloom passed through 3 generations, a glaze that speaks of emperors, and a vase once overlooked as simple decor. The guest reveals a porcelain piece inherited from his grandfather, gifted during his father's birth in 1925.
It was given to him during my father's birth in 1925. I appropriated it from my father about 1968, and it's been in my home ever since.
Presented is a Maping vase with a flambe glaze, a swirling blend of oxblood red, turquoise, and soft sky blue. Made not from clay but true porcelain, its rich surface shows delicate pitting, a hallmark of this ancient glazing technique.
Now the mark that's there tells us when it was made and where it was made. More importantly, for the moment, is the glaze itself. This is a very specific type of glaze made in Asia, and it's called flambe, which is a French word, and it just refers to this sort of mixture of beautiful turquoises, the sky blue, with this deep, rich red, sort of oxblood kind of a color.
This flambe style mimics Song Dynasty innovations, but this piece was crafted during the Qianlong period of the Qing dynasty.
And you'll also notice on the surface there's lots of little pits. That's characteristic of this particular type of glaze. Now this glaze is imitating a specific type of material first appearing in the 12th, 13th century in China during the Song Dynasty.
The rain mark beneath confirms it was made between 1736 and 1795 for the Chinese imperial household. Its shape, color shifts, and even the subtle green halo near the rim all echo centuries of refined Chinese artistry. Despite a glaze crack likely from a long-ago bump, it remains a rare and authentic treasure.
It has one problem, and I'm going to spin it around, and you've mentioned it to me. It's got a little bit of a line down through the glaze. That's called a glaze crack. And it probably came because somebody whacked the side of it with another hard object.
Its damage does not erase its identity, and collectors still revere it for its craftsmanship and royal provenance. Imperial Qing porcelain is increasingly rare outside museum walls, especially in this flamboyant and fiery glaze. It sat quietly for decades, but today, it's recognized as a masterwork of 18th century Chinese ceramics. This beautiful imperial flambe glazed vase would be given a market value of approximately
$40,000.
Oh my God.
A misunderstood heirloom, a family tale passed down through generations, and a doll that turns out to hold a much older secret. The guest explains how her grandmother once played with this object, believing it had been handed down from her great-great-great-grandmother.
It was my grandmother's, and they called it a doll. She said that it was her great-grandmother's doll. My great-great-great-grandmother lived in North Carolina, but at some point they traveled out to Missouri and then came back to North Carolina, and that's really all the history I have on the doll.
And where in North Carolina were they from?
Winston-Salem.
That's a great little heirloom. And what do you do with it now?
Dust it.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Revealed is not a toy at all, but a rare figural flask made by Moravian potters in Salem, North Carolina during the early 19th century.
When you told me that your family was from Winston-Salem, that was one of the clues to help me identify this little flask.
Okay.
And this is a very rare bottle.
These potters, active from the mid-18th century, were known for their whimsical bottle forms, turtles, squirrels, fish, and this doll-like figure.
Salem was the center of Southern pottery making. The industry began there in the mid-18th century. But this style of bottle was made in the first couple decades of the 19th century.
Okay.
Created between 1810 and 1830, the flask was molded, not hand-thrown, and meant to hold liquids its doll's head once sealed with a cork.
Whether they were used for spirits or whatever, but the hole is where a cork was.
Okay.
So it was not a doll.
Okay.
It was actually used to store liquid in.
What was once seen as a child's plaything is actually a prized example of early Southern folk pottery. The figure holds a tiny bouquet in her crossed hands, and bears the telltale seam of a press mold along her side. A necklace added by the guest's crafty grandmother gives it a touch of family personality, but the core of the piece remains untouched. Moravian flasks are highly collectible, especially those in human form, which appear most frequently but remain rare nonetheless. The link to Winston-Salem helped confirm its origin, tying it directly to the historic Old Salem pottery community. From the shelves of a childhood home to the shelves of serious collectors, this piece has quietly carried history for over 2 centuries. At auction today, this Moravian flask would be valued between.
This flask would sell at auction for between $15,000 and $25,000.
That's amazing.
A neighborhood legend, backyard hot dogs, and a childhood treasure signed twice by the man who would become the greatest of all time. The guest recalls chasing a young Cassius Clay around a Miami park just weeks before he would shake the world by defeating Sonny Liston.
I brought a signed photograph of Cassius Clay. A lot of people know him as Muhammad Ali, but at that time he was Cassius Clay. When I was around 8 years old, Cassius Clay lived in our neighborhood. Probably not by his choice, but prior to him fighting Sonny Liston for the championship, he lived in our neighborhood and he would run around the park. And all the little kids would run around following him. After he would do that, he would invite us over to his house for hot dogs and Kool-Aid. We thought that was the best thing in the world. But prior to that, we had to listen to him. So he'd teach us what I now know as life stories, telling us to be good kids. And also, he'd show us films about how he boxed. Of course, how good he was. Of course he did. And he was the greatest.
Presented is a personalized fight promo photo, signed not once but twice by Cassius Clay in bold fountain pen ink. Before he became Muhammad Ali, he was already mentoring kids, screening boxing films, and handing out life advice with a side of Kool-Aid. This photo, tucked away for decades by the guest's mother, remains in near pristine condition thanks to her quiet preservation. The name Cassius Clay holds unique historical weight used only for a brief period before his public transformation into Ali in 1964. Autographs from that era are far rarer than those signed after his name change, making this an especially desirable collector's piece.
Shortly afterward, he fought Sonny Liston, and then he changed his name to Muhammad Ali.
Right. So, of course, Cassius Clay fought Sonny Liston on February 25th, 1964. Beat Liston 7 rounds. He proclaimed his faith to the Nation of Islam, became Muhammad Ali.
It's a living memory in ink, personalized, authentic, and loaded with cultural significance from a defining moment in sports history. The energy of the era, the warmth of childhood, and the greatness of Ali are all captured in a single framed photo. Though never meant as an investment, it's now recognized as a knockout keepsake from a pivotal point in boxing lore. At auction, this double-signed Cassius Clay photo would command a conservative estimate of
$5,000 to $7,000.
No way.
Yeah.
5,000 to 7,000?
We'd
Wow.
insure it for considerably more. We'd insure it for about $10,000.
Wow.
a fierce letter from a future president, full of indignation and penned with passion, aimed straight at a guest's great-great-grandfather. The guest inherited this fiery 1841 letter, written by none other than Abraham Lincoln to Andrew McCormick, his direct ancestor.
This is a letter that is written to Andrew McCormick, who was my great-great-grandfather, and is written by Abraham Lincoln in 1841.
It's a rare early glimpse into Lincoln's unfiltered emotions as he pleads with a friend not to vote for a political rival.
I don't think I've ever seen an Abraham Lincoln letter of such feeling. It is absolutely one of the most emotional Lincoln letters you'll ever see. You always think of Lincoln as being so calm and steady and sedate. Even the handwriting in this letter.
Lincoln's usually measured tone is replaced with agitation, and even his handwriting betrays his frustration. The letter scolds McCormick for considering support for William Walters instead of Lincoln's favored candidate, Simeon Francis.
Let me just read a few of the lines here. I have just learned with utter astonishment that you have some notion of voting for Walters. this certainly cannot be true. It cannot be that one so true, firm, and unwavering as you have ever been can for a moment think of such a thing.
Utter astonishment. This cannot be true. Lincoln's words come alive with conviction, disappointment, and loyalty. Instead of signing formally, he simply writes, Lincoln, hinting at a close friendship behind the political rebuke. The letter isn't just historically rare, it's pristine, perfectly preserved through generations of family stewardship. Dating back to a time before Lincoln's presidency, it captures the raw political landscape of 1841 Springfield. As a personal, emotional, and political artifact, this letter bridges private feeling and public legacy. A conservative auction estimate for this powerful and emotional letter signed by Lincoln would be in the range of
Something like this would be in the ballpark of $75,000 to $125,000 at auction. What do you think of that?
I had no idea.
a long-forgotten canvas, a quiet shelf, and a masterpiece hiding in plain sight for over half a century. The guest recalls how her husband inherited the painting after his parents passed, and for 25 years, it sat unnoticed above their bookshelf.
This was something that had been essentially lost, buried, put away in our family for 50 plus years. It was stored down in the basement, and then when my husband's parents passed away, he inherited it. We've had it for about 25 years, but just had it stored up above the bookshelf at home, and it wasn't until we watched Antiques Roadshow quite a bit that I got a little suspicious and went, I wonder if that's something that's pretty neat.
Unveiled before us is an oil-on-canvas landscape, once buried in a basement and now resurrected with intrigue. Though they could only make out the faded date, the appraiser instantly recognized the hand behind the brush, Sanford Robinson Gifford. Gifford, born in 1823, was a pivotal figure in the Hudson River School and one of the great masters of luminism. Luminism celebrates the divine quality of light in landscapes, and this piece radiates with that spiritual calm and golden hush.
Now, luminism referred to the landscape painters that saw nature as sublime, and they created this sublime in the light in their paintings.
While the misty peaks echo the northeast, the ruins and robed shepherds mark this clearly as a scene from Italy. Painted in 1858, it likely emerged from Gifford's European travels in the mid-century, reflecting his awe of the Old World. Decades of dust concealed the signature in the corner, but not the painter's brilliance shining beneath it. Though time has dimmed the surface, a careful restoration would reveal a glowing jewel of American art history. What once seemed a curiosity now stands as a treasure from one of luminism's leading lights. In today's market, this rediscovered Sanford Gifford commands an insurance value of around
Insurance value would be about $300,000.
That's amazing.
a glowing relic from the past, a burst of neon from the depths of the 30s, and a history that defies expectations. The guest brought in a piece that had long fascinated collectors and decorators alike, unsure of just how rare it truly was. What we're looking at is an original neon advertising sign from the 1930s, an era when neon was still finding its voice. While most neon signs lit up storefronts and street corners, this one was made specifically for indoor advertising, a rare twist. During that period, interior neon signs were virtually unheard of, making this a striking exception to the rule. Crafted with vibrant gas-filled tubing and mounted on its original backboard, the sign still pulses with vintage allure. Its typography and color scheme reflect the Art Deco influences of the time, where style met emerging technology. Despite decades of wear, its wiring remains intact, and the tubing untouched in almost miraculous survival. The brand it advertises may no longer exist, but its historical significance as an early indoor neon piece is undeniable. Collectors of industrial design and vintage advertising prize such rarities for both their aesthetic and historic value. Neon like this rarely comes to light, especially from an era when indoor use was virtually experimental. In today's market, this 1930s neon sign is estimated to be worth between
This would be about $2,500 to $3,000.
Oh my gosh. I didn't have any clue on that.
As far as I'm concerned, it's unique, meaning I've never seen another one.
3 tattered posters, a 25-cent garage sale gamble, and a direct window into the soul of a movement. The guests spotted them among the dorm room decor and instinctively knew they were more than paper. They were history in hiding.
I bought them a few years ago from a garage sale. They were with a number of dorm-type posters. And I knew I was buying a piece of history. I knew it was an important piece of history, but I really haven't had a chance to really research them. I figured they were from probably the early to mid-1960s based on their content.
Brought to the table are 3 civil rights era posters, all photographed by Danny Lyon, a giant of social documentary photography. Though creased, taped, and even nibbled by pests, they pulse with the urgency and spirit of the early 1960s. Lyon's work with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, helped capture the raw emotion of sit-ins, marches, and rising resistance. The poster reading "Now" depicts the March on Washington, the very stage where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered "I Have a Dream." Another features the powerful message, "One man, one vote," echoing the cry for equal participation in American democracy. But the most haunting of all shows young activists in prayer, including a then 22-year-old John Lewis, later a lifelong congressman.
One of these posters to me stands out more than the other ones, and that's the one on the bottom. "Come, let us build a new world together." What, to me, stands out about it are the people who are involved in the photograph. I only recognize one, to be honest, and that's the figure closest to you. That's John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, who was then a 22-year-old civil rights activist. He's been a congressman now for over 30 years, and this was when he was involved in the movement. Coincidentally, he was caught in this photograph in this incredibly poignant moment, praying for a new world together, a better world, and it's great.
These images don't just document, they demand remembrance. Each frame a testament to collective hope and tireless action. Despite their condition, the rarity and historic gravity of the posters elevate them far beyond mere memorabilia. 2 have surfaced at auction before, but the Now poster remains uncatalogued, its debut still awaited. As a complete set, these 3 Danny Lyon photographs hold an estimated value of,
I would estimate these 3 posters between $7,000 and $10,000.
Okay.
And as I understand it, you paid 75 cents.
Yes, I did.
a dusty case from the Depression, a father's gift of music, and an instrument now worth a symphony's fortune. The guest shares how her great-grandfather bought it for $20 from a neighbor in need, hoping his son might learn to play.
He purchased it from, I believe, a neighbor who at the time needed some extra money, and he wanted his son, my grandfather, to learn how to play a musical instrument.
Revealed inside the worn case is a Gibson F5 mandolin, specifically a rare Lloyd Lower model made in the early 1920s. Lloyd Lower, an acoustic genius and mandolin virtuoso, revolutionized instrument design during his brief but brilliant time at Gibson. This mandolin bears all his hallmarks: parallel tone bars, an elevated fingerboard, and those graceful F-holes echoing violin craft.
Similar to a violin, and has the bridge positioned around the center of the body, around the center of the arch.
Okay.
And it is arched like a violin and tap-toned, meaning internally tuned. The thicknesses of the plates inside are tuned like a violin.
Okay.
And Laura was the first guy to do this to a mandolin.
Its arched, tap-tuned body and extended neck transformed the mandolin into a concert-worthy instrument for the modern era. The fern inlay on the peg head glows with elegance, marking it as a professional master model from Lower's golden period between 1922 and 1924. Inside, the original Gibson label and matching master model inscription confirm its historic pedigree. The finished Cremona Brown Sunburst is among the most coveted, and this example ranks in the top 10% ever seen by the appraiser. Gibson had long made mandolins, but this was the blueprint for everything that followed the Stradivarius of its kind. What was once a Depression-era bargain has now become an icon of American instrument making. In today's market, this Lloyd Loar Gibson F5 mandolin would retail for approximately,
I would say these days, a correct asking price through a dealer in a shop would be about $175,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow. It's been in a closet in a farmhouse for many, many years.
What we have here is a print that the guest purchased from a friend in the 60s.
I don't think I paid a great deal for it at the time.
What would not a great deal be? Do you think it's, would you have spent more than a few $100s on this, do you think?
Oh, $25 to $30.
Okay.
Interestingly, this lithograph was created by none other than the famous Andy Warhol, a renowned American artist, filmmaker, and producer who became a leading figure in the pop art movement of that decade. Warhol's artistic style was known for its vibrant colors, bold compositions, and the repetition of everyday objects, often incorporating elements of advertising, commercial branding, and popular imagery into his work. This particular lithograph, depicting flowers, is part of Warhol's significant legacy of lithographic works. These pieces reflect his deep fascination with consumer culture, celebrity icons, and the beauty of ordinary objects. The work itself is based on a photograph of hibiscus flowers, a popular motif in photography during the time, and was produced as an announcement for an exhibition at the Leo Castelli Gallery in New York.
This announcement as an offset color lithograph was used in the gallery for clients, people coming into the exhibition, and it was issued two ways, both hand-signed by him and unsigned.
Warhol's flower lithographs are a perfect example of his genius in finding beauty in the mundane. Signed on the bottom right corner, this piece is undeniably stamped with Warhol's signature, further cementing its authenticity.
There were only about 300 of these that were hand-signed by the artist.
Though the artwork does have some condition issues, they don't significantly impact its value.
You have a little bit of staining down here, which shows best on the orange flower, but the water staining is entirely reversible.
Even with these imperfections, at auction, this iconic work by Warhol is still expected to command a remarkable price of,
would be in the neighborhood of about $30,000 to $40,000.
You're joking.
No.
Oh my God.
Having a baseball archive can be a thrilling experience, offering a unique connection to the sport's rich history and timeless nostalgia. That very feeling is what the guest experiences, having inherited this remarkable archive, passed down through generations in her family, from her great-grandparents to her.
All these cards went to your great-grandfather? That's how he got them and they got handed down to you?
Yeah, apparently he collected them and he unfortunately cut them down to fit this little album, so they're all slightly askew.
The archive holds an extraordinary collection of photographs and a signed document from members of the legendary Boston Red Stockings. This team was one of the pioneering forces in professional baseball, playing a significant role in shaping the game during its formative years. The Boston Red Stockings are considered the ancestors of today's Atlanta Braves. Originally known as the Boston Braves from the year 1912 to 1952, the franchise eventually relocated, first to Milwaukee and later to Atlanta, carrying forward a rich legacy that began in the 19th century. Among the treasures in this archive are rare photographs of Henry Wright and his brother, George Wright, both iconic figures in the early history of American baseball. Henry Wright, in particular, is often hailed as the father of professional baseball for his instrumental role in organizing and advancing the sport. Also included is a photograph of Albert Spaulding, a legendary figure in baseball history, not only as a talented pitcher, but also as a visionary entrepreneur in the sporting goods industry.
He was the first well-known player to use a fielding glove. And what did he build from that? A sporting goods empire.
Spaulding's leadership with the Chicago White Stockings led the team to multiple championships and helped establish baseball's place in American culture. Rounding out this historic archive is a letter that offers a brief yet powerful glimpse into the lives and circumstances of these early baseball pioneers, a personal connection to a bygone era.
I am just going upstairs to supper and feel awful hungry, but do not expect much. Poor meals here, too hungry to say any more. Harry Wright.
An insurance valuation for this archive would be in the value.
I would insure it
for at least $1 million.
Are you serious? Oh my.
Displayed at this time is an extraordinary iron object, gifted to the guest by his father, a passionate collector of arms and armor. This captivating piece is known as an iron spiny lobster, and it is believed to be the work of the Myochen family, a lineage of master armorers whose legacy dates back centuries. The Myochen family was one of the most celebrated names in the world of Japanese armor making. With a tradition rooted in the forging of samurai armor, they were revered for their unparalleled skill in crafting strong yet intricate ironworks that protected the warrior elite of feudal Japan. However, with the collapse of the samurai era in the latter part of the 19th century, the Myochen artisans found themselves at a cultural crossroads. No longer tasked with producing battlefield armor, they turned their remarkable talents toward the creation of ornamental and collectible objects for an emerging class of global travelers.
Very, very finely done. And one reason why I attribute it to the Myochen is the Myochen were so good that it doesn't seem likely too many other people could have done one.
It is from this period of reinvention and adaptation that this iron spiny lobster was born. Crafted with astonishing realism, the lobster features a carefully applied artificial patina designed to mimic the rich, natural hues of a living crustacean. This intentional coloration elevates the piece beyond mere craftsmanship. It becomes a poetic study in nature and metal. On the reverse side, one discovers an astonishing level of mechanical ingenuity. The tiny articulations, the movable limbs, the segmented tail, all rendered in iron with exquisite fidelity. Every aspect of the lobster's anatomy is captured, offering both visual delight and tactile wonder. It is a work that bridges the worlds of martial history and artistic expression and stands as a rare and enchanting example of Meiji-era metalwork. At auction, this remarkable piece is expected to fetch a price of,
I would say a conservative price on this one would be $15,000.